wish, I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and we're starting our sixth. It's a hard ordinal numeral to pronounce, but we're starting our viewer games analysis stream, and today we'll be looking at 3 interesting games. I've arranged them in the order of complexity and also according to the rating of our antagonist. So the first game that we're going to look at was sent to us by a subscriber with a screen name Ihzelba. And here we're playing, I don't remember what the rating of our opponent was, but we're playing a low-rated player, and we have 4 monasteries. So I thought it would be, kind of not a very special game, but there were really many interesting things to talk about. So we start with a monastery. Our opponent takes 4 points, and we get a second monastery. And then from here I'm thinking, okay, the outcome should be that we win this game plus 30. Why is this not the case? Now, our opponent here does something interesting. So probably as green, you could go somewhere like over here or over here. I guess you could take one of these roads too. Green chooses to take one of these roads, and yeah, you can also play like this, but then as green you're adding 1 point to red's monasteries, and then this meeple can get trapped. But we're not here to discuss green's moves, we're here to discuss our protagonist red's moves. Here we draw the third monastery, which should at this point be essentially game winning. So probably even not the worst move is just to put it over here. Like continuing your opponent's road, but then that's just so much nice stuff lying around. Well, actually, no, this is not ideal, because you know why? Because your opponent gets a city, let's say city cap, and then you're in Zugzwang. If you get something like, let's say something like this, then you're forced to continue opponent's city. Do you feel me? Do you feel me? Like, again, try to imagine this. City cap goes here from our opponent, and we get one of those, and we're forced to prolong our opponent's city. So actually, yeah, I almost accidentally ended myself in Zugzwang, but probably like a more standard move is to play something like this. But the important part, with the road facing downwards. And actually, this is almost the crucial mistake. Really, most of the stuff that we'll be talking about in this game has to do something with the opening high Fabian, high Crafty, high Glovier. So our protagonist here places the monastery like this, and this is already suboptimal, because ideally we do not want to be helping our opponent, and this could be our opponent's road end. So let's see what they do. They start a new city somewhere, which is fine. Now here we're about to make another mistake. So there are 2 natural moves. One is start blocking, which I'm not a fan of in the opening, because you can easily waste a move like this. Another one, very natural, start a 2-point road. This is what our protagonist opts for, or do they? And this is where you don't meeple the road. And I think you here, Ihzelba, should absolutely meeple the road, because our opponent just meeples the road instead, and that's it. We just lost all those valuable points. And that's, yeah, it's just sort of mistakes like these. Because remember, we will talk about meepling stuff a lot in this stream. You can either meeple too much or meeple too little. But whichever of these 2 mistakes you're prone to making, you always ask the same question: why do you meeple a feature? And the answer is pretty much to get some points. But then why don't you wait until this feature is completed? Why don't you just keep building, and then, only with the finishing tile place a meeple? Well, the answer is you do that, you meeple a feature so that your opponent doesn't meeple a feature. So you meeple such a feature that your opponent has a reason to meeple. Does your opponent has a reason to meeple this road? Yes, he does. They just did. And they would have done this with any road tile. And also now they're putting this square under attack, which is probably not the end of the world for us, but actually this guy is so close to completion, it would be good for us to place a curve over here to try and finish this. And had you had a meeple over here, you would be not only having these 2 points, you would be controlling this road. You would be the one who decides when this square gets continued. But we're moving on. Even though we're kind of like past the 2 decisive points in the game. It was about this road placement and about not meepling this road. And that's it. And everything, all the problems that you're going to have later in the game, the meeple disadvantage that you're going to find yourself in. It's a bit of a spoiler, but from this position you can see it really all stems from this sequence of 2 moves. Okay, so far so good. Our opponent continues a city. We start a road, which I rather like. Our opponent finishes their city, and there's already a field brewing. So it is something to have in mind. We do this, of course, kind of the only move. Well, another opportunity we could have started the Japanese-style block, but I think it's a bit too early for that kind of stuff. Just let our opponent finish the city. Now, here comes an interesting junction. The move that I prefer here is maybe placing it here on the 36, like something like this, because this type of city can be closed very quickly with a couple of triangles. There's still a lot of those in the deck. But you choose to do something that I think is a bit of a lower priority. You choose to do this and meeple a city cap. Now, there are several problems with this. I mean, it's not a move that loses you the game or anything, but you're opening up this field very, very widely. And probably ideally you want to finishing this kind of stuff with just a regular curve or something, or ideally with a straight line and then a crossroads. There's still 7 crossroads remaining, so you shouldn't be expecting to be running out of crossroads very soon. But the problem is that you're creating a huge field when you're at meeple disadvantage. And then this field was already going to be 9 points. But now you've dropped 1 more city cap into it. So it's going to be worth 12 points, possibly 15. And whom does this favor? Of course, the side that has the meeple advantage. So if you're going to do something like this, I think just kind of drop your farmer yourself and leave the city cap empty. Or just, you know, don't leave the city cap in the first place. Yeah, there's also some problems that if this meeple gets blocked with a 35, your 2 meeples could get tangled up here and you lose 2. It's a far-fetched opportunity, but it's always there on the board. So your opponent has now several lovely options. First of all, they could just block. They could just drop a farmer. They could just slowly finish their city, which is a bit too conservative. Let's see what they do. Okay, they go for finishing the city. But you get a 4th monastery, which you absolutely rightfully so meeple. I like this. I like this even better than the farm, just because it's the start of the game. You know, the monasteries here are so good. Your opponent utilizes the road that you created for him several moves earlier and blocks 2 of your monasteries together with his 1 meeple and drops a farmer. So that's actually a very strong move from your opponent. Now, and this is a direct consequence of not meepling this road before and of the orientation of the monastery, because this blocking platform would not exist. Normally, it's not such a big problem, right? Because you see your opponent has 3 points for a block meeple, and you have, well, you're going to have a 16 for 2 blocked monasteries. So it's going to be a net 13 points investment for net 1 blocked meeple, which usually is actually pretty good. And maybe even in this game, it's probably going to be winnable. However, with such an open position, because of this curve over here, the position got super open. This field is going to be so big that probably the value of 1 meeple exceeds 13 points. But okay, you still have a great tile. Now the question of how to use this tile, and I think now you're about to make one more mistake. So the move that I would do here, I would consider this. Well, it's actually probably not ideal because of the sensitivity of this square over here. You get blocked, this get blocked, so probably not this. Ideally, of course, I'd want to do this, but then you're having your last meeple, you will be missing out on value from road tiles, from crossroads. This is also not ideal. Even though we do want to be cleaning off the city cap. Like, if you were to meeple the city, I wouldn't hate it, but probably the best move is to do something like this, or like this, or like this. And just simply be looking forward to finishing these two cities. If anything, this is probably best. Then you get some sort of triangle here, city cap here, triple city, triangle, kind of get a standard lip-shaped city. Hi, Krish is asking what are the rules for submitting the game. Very simple. It's you just got to either message me on Board Game Arena or submit one via email. You can see the channel email address in the channel description on the channel page. So yeah, I do have actually one slot still open for the next stream. By the way, the next stream is happening, hopefully, unless we have tons of WTCOC action next week. Because I had too many submissions. Well, many good submissions to review. Alrighty. But you do this. Which doesn't look like a bad move, but and you're trying to get a meeple back from your monastery, but the thing is, you're using the wrong kind of tile for this. Look at that. You still have 8 turns and like lots of road tiles, and that's really what you want to do. You want to put a curve here. Or, well, there's still 2 monasteries remaining. Like if you get a monastery, I'm not above placing my last meeple. In fact, I wholly encourage it. Because let's say if you were to get a monastery in this spot, then you can easily retrieve a meeple with a curve or like a city cap or something. So that's... Though the problem with this move is that you will only have so many city tiles that fit here. But it just seems that you're so eager to get a meeple back that you're sacrificing your development here. Because let's say now if you get a curve... I guess you could still place it here, but this is slightly suboptimal because like that's curve, straight line, and then road tiles is how you build around and you get these 2 meeples back. And also at the same time, you limit this field quite a bit with these road tiles because you're controlling all of these squares. And if anything, green has got only 2 green squares, like one over here and one over here to, drop more city cap if he wants to. But another thing is you're setting up for your opponent to do a Ukrainian technique against you. Imagine if your opponent gets something, let's say the worst case scenario, something like this. Then your opponent goes here and meeples it, and that's it. Like, then you just lost. Because you're losing this city cap. This also could get like blocked or something. But even if it doesn't get blocked, now you're forced to put another city tile over here to get your meeple back. Your opponent receives more points as a result, and so on and so on. Fortunately for you, your opponent does not have a city tile. They just continue their road, and here you get a meeple back, which probably is mandated at this point. Yeah, your opponent dropped another farmer, which they should. You have only one legit move and still a meeple problem, so of course we would need to hopefully recover this city and maybe recover some monasteries and then possibly try to barricade off these fields and fight for one of these fields. If we can tie this field, then because of our monasteries, which are like 32 points at least in total, we're probably still winning this. Here you fight for a road, which I understand. I mean, I'm not sure how big of a fan of this move, just because the road is only 5 points. On the other hand, it's probably, it's probably worth your time. An alternative was simply placing it over here just trying to build around the monastery or placing it over here and dropping the farmer. I think all these options certainly deserve... well, all these options have merits. Okay, you do this, your opponent just keeps cleaning off city caps. Luckily, you get to do the same. Wait a second, I'm gonna try and double check something in the stream settings. Alrighty, you do the same. And by the way, if anyone in the chat has suggestions about moves, do let me know. Now your opponent just has the audacity of continuing your city and scoring 4-point road. But actually, I think that's quite a strong move because they're making it even harder for your city to get completed. They're also giving themselves one opportunity to attack it in case there is a threat for it to get completed. So it's actually a rather good move. And they have taken the longest quick road that was available. Okay, well, you keep building, which is nice. They now try block you, which of course is not a very strong move. It's a waste of a city cap if you ask me. And if you're going to do that, then of course you face it the other way. Because you now got the dream tile, you place it over here, and then suddenly you are like 3 tiles away from completing a city and 2 tiles away from making it a 50-50. But you place this tile over here. And then I'm kind of puzzled why that may be. We've seen this on these analysis streams because like it's a common types of mistakes that there's a sort of dream tile that you need, and then our protagonist doesn't use this dream tile as this dream tile was intended. I know what your logic here must have been. You probably thought, okay, I want to meeple back ASAP, but then if you want to meeple back ASAP, then you know we didn't have to do these things. But it's fine. Another thing that you're probably thinking is, well, the city is still kind of big and I probably won't get the meeple back anyway. But no. It's actually very good to create this 50% threat of completion, right? So let's say if you were to place this tile over here, then until the tile that fits into this square, the one triple city with the road, comes out, your opponent always has to be scared and chase around the city and possibly invest a meeple into connecting it, or maybe try to block it somewhere else and spend more moves. Because very often when it comes with these cities, it's not about completing them, it's about creating a threat. And then, should you find yourself in a losing position in the future, then you can always use the sort of 50% to kind of bail out. Then you can make it your win condition. You can keep this threat alive just by saving the city. You don't have to rely on the city to get completed, but if we're ever in a dire position, at least you're going to have some sort of coin flip to rely on, and we can kind of switch to trying to complete that city, if that makes sense. So that would have just kept our win condition flexible, because we do this. Our opponent now blocks us permanently, which is okay. They do add us a point, but this threat is eliminated. Now, you build the ruin, which I like. There's no better move without a farmer, which I also like. Your opponent now picks up the piece that you built for him or for them. So that's not great. Now you probably take 2 points. You choose to take them that way. That's completely fine. It's sort of more of a matter of taste, and they're very close to actually finishing their city. But unfortunately, not much what we can do on this move. Maybe actually go here and meeple a city. That's probably what you have to... Yeah, that's the move. That's probably what you have to do if you ask me. Because the move that you did, it's sort of okay, actually. But ideally, you want to be using shielded tiles for your own unshared completed cities, so that this tile gives you 4 points and not 2 points. Shielded tiles are pretty rare. There is only 10 of those in total, and only 4 of these tiles are triangles. And well, 6 of these tiles are 2-edged tiles, and 2-edged tiles are the ones that you can typically place in your completable city. So they're only few and far between, and we kind of want to get the maximum of those. So, but okay, you made this move. I think it's also right. Your opponent takes 4 points. You're probably going to continue your monastery. Yeah, very good. And also you're kind of threatening a block over there. Your opponent takes 3 points, which is kind of conservative. I think taking the monastery and eliminating the field connection was not the worst idea, but I can understand them. They want to preserve a meeple for the field fight. So here you have several options. I think a move that you did first... Yeah, a move that I would consider would just simply to go over here. Wait, up top. Pointed downwards with the idea of simply adding 1 point to yourself. There's some other possible moves. Maybe you can also go over here near the 20 just to start blocking the city. But the problem with this is that you are creating a ruin for your opponent, which they can expand, and that will equalize your monastery. But you can also play like this. The move you chose, it's more of a... Well, I can understand this move. So you are creating a platform for the field connection. But from a strategical standpoint, it's probably too early. Now, the monasteries over here did not manage to develop soon enough. It does feel that your opponent halted a lot of them. And so you think that your win condition is the field. Well, first of all, if you feel that, we need to do some groundwork first. I think you needed to do something like this to separate the two fields, just to make sure that, you know, this field is attackable in the first place. Because there will be attacking points later. You can just simply create an attacking point by starting a city in your opponent field. Let's say we take a city cap, then we take another city cap, drop a farmer over here, and then just connect like this through 2 tiles. That would sort of be a standard technique. It could seem slow, but with 29 tiles remaining, it's not a problem at all. But there's another alternative. Should you really get desperate, there are still these 5 curves, and you know, you can just drop a kamikaze farmer, straight line goes here, curves goes here, and you kind of connect like this. Hopefully we won't have to do that, but well, let's just see what happens. So you create this platform, which I think is premature. Your opponent should, of course, immediately block this platform, but they do this, which you should be super happy about because they help you. And essentially, they eliminate the prospect of completing the city, and now they allow you to free up your monastery. Because now, probably if I had a child like this, a triangle with a road, I would not even shy away from placing it right here and then try to reconnect to the city. So you proceed with your plan and drop a farmer, which is understandable, but it's just premature. Like, you don't have enough ammunition at this point. First of all, you have to get meeples back. And you see, you could have used this tile. Actually, imagine this. In a different situation, this tile goes here. This tile goes here. You connect to the road, and then you meeple the city cap and create the threat of dropping a farmer. Now your opponent has a tough choice between taking 2 points with this tile somewhere here, or maybe, let's say, imagine that you do meeple the city cap. Maybe they need to do something like this just to prevent you from dropping a farmer, but then you can get one of those and get the 2 extra points from the roads, and so on and so on. So I think the main theme for you in this game, other than these 2 couple of opening mistakes, is in the middle game you seem to be forcing what you want to happen immediately with tiles which are not meant for that purpose. Because, again, long term, this field is still your opponent's. And here, there's another field connection. They can just simply use that, and all you've done is just exchange a couple of meeples, and this has not solved your problem. Well, we didn't connect, and of course our opponent gets the separator, and now it's kind of a problem for us, because These two squares are a bit tangled up. Well, actually, no. We don't care about the 13, right? Because that monastery is blocked anyway. We just want to get one of these guys. But it will be a while before we do that. And I just simply don't know what we can do until that happens. So I think the best move for you here... Well, let's just update the situation first. Yeah, is not this. Because the problem is... You've only upped the stakes. You drop a divider into your common field, but you create yet one more field connection. And what is going to happen as a result, your opponent is going to drop a farmer somewhere here, reconnect, and the city will have 2 more city caps. So you've just made... You've essentially upped the stakes for something that's an already losing bet. And this probably wasn't even necessary at that point. You can kind of still win conventionally. You can probably still win without the fields. Let me remind you that you have 23 points for the monasteries. So let's say net 20. Actually, let's just do a quick count. So net 20, so you're at +4. When the cities, you have... Your opponent has 8, but you have... 11, so 3 more, you're at +7, +9, equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, yeah, the situation is not great because we're -18. Well, yeah, okay, the situation is not great. We probably will have to fight for the field, but it has to be like really, really subtle. It has to be late, and we can even maybe try to win the field outright. But first we have to get the ammunition, and I think that was very unfortunate that we did not manage to get this meeple back. So now it's probably just a bunch of waiting moves. Your opponent gets a monastery, which is of course great for them. You should be cleaning off city caps, because you know that's our only source of points. It's quick points until we get another meeple back. Your opponent should probably get a couple of points, or they could just drop a farmer straight away. Let's see what they do. Yeah, that's also fine. I kind of like the farmer straight away for them as well. Here, you probably need to think of something like really creative. I don't know, maybe like somewhere here, or maybe somewhere here to separate these 2 fields, or maybe, yeah. Let's just see what you do. Oh no, just add a point to yourself, of course. We'll need every point you can get. Your opponent drops a farmer. And interestingly, from that point on, like your field play at the end of the game, from this point on, was like absolutely awesome. Like, the way you managed to, well, we'll see that in just a second. But it's a problem that was like a little bit too late to fix all the other stuff. So here, unfortunately, we can't play this move because now it's a bit reckless, right? We can't leave our opponent 1 tile away. That's why this move from our opponent before was actually really strong. So had this tile not been there, I would have thoroughly advocated to place this tile over here and then try to retake the city. But because they're only 1 tile away from completing this part, well, you know, that would be just ridiculous. We would be giving our opponent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiles to win the game immediately out of 20 tiles. So that's, of course, something that we shouldn't be doing. I guess for you, I don't know. Did you drop another farmer here? I think you did. Yeah, I mean, of course it's not ideal. It's not like a huge gamble. And probably... Yeah, honestly, maybe you have to do something like this. I would probably be still a bit more patient. I would maybe try to start some sort of blocking attack, or maybe just add a couple of points to my city. Because remember, I need to get points back first, because there are some scenarios where you tie the field or even win the field, but due to your meeple disadvantage, you don't get enough quick points. There's still a lot of city caps remaining in the deck for you to grab quick points from. But let's see what they do. Your opponent makes a mistake. There was no reason for them to meeple this stuff because you don't have a meeple yourself. I mean, but it doesn't matter. We're here to discuss your move, not your opponent's move. So, of course, an attempt to complete the city is nice, but they can wait to move. They can just put this over here, and then when they get the next tile, then place their last meeple. So you complete the field connection. Your game is somehow remarkably live. They should probably complete a field connection themselves, or they can also place it up top near the monastery. Kind of both moves are fine. Let's see what they do. Yeah, that's also fine. I probably prefer the field if I was them, just because this is sensitive. What you should do here, well, I don't know, to be honest. I guess place somewhere over here on the left. Try to attack this. But that's why kind of the reason why, you know, we're not going to discuss the ending so much in detail, because I think in the ending you really did what you could. And I can't really suggest too much because, like, I don't have the experience on being in such a position very often, because I just try to not put myself in a position like this. Ah, okay, you try block that. Okay, that's also understandable. They get this tile, which is amazing for them. You're probably going to complete the block of them. Oh yeah, you can't. That's another problem. So you try blocking the field connection instead. Nice, super nice. You limit the number of tiles that fit here. They get actually really fortunate with their city. That's just huge. And then you block the square. That's beautiful. So somehow, just you have a meeple majority on this huge field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's why I said I really liked sort of what you did in the ending. And yeah, maybe this gamble was already necessary and it's sort of paying off at the moment. But of course here we will need some help from our opponent as well. They don't even have to fight for the field. They can just do this. Again, meeple rather unnecessary. Because there's for several reasons. One is because you have no meeples. But the other reasons, even if you, let's say, did have one meeple, they might need their meeple for something else. And if they were counting tiles, they would count the rodents, and they would see that there are 2 of those rodents, the ones that you need. So they, as they are in the lead, they do not want to be flipping for the same tiles as you. Because let's say if you get this tile, well, then their meeple is stranded. But if they get this tile, well, then they already get the satisfaction of having your meeple stranded, and they don't need the extra benefit of these 4 points. Oh, this is a mistake, for sure. I was just about to praise, well, I did, like how you managed to successfully block off this meeple, but now you're helping your opponent connect into the field. Maybe I guess that your idea was that maybe you want to try to gamble real hard and build up this field to take every single thing that you can get, every single point, and then somehow block the square. But you're giving your opponent way too many tiles. You're giving your opponent 4 tiles to connect. So it's like a 50% of the chance that they're going to win the game immediately. You really need to keep this meeple blocked. And if we are to gamble here, well, we really want to draw one of these tiles to get our meeple back, in which case we can preserve this meeple majority. So I think candidate move for you would be something like over here, facing down, and then we hope for the triangle. Or maybe somewhere, yeah, I don't even know necessarily. Maybe add a point to our city or something like this. And let's see what they do. Well, they do get the meeple back, but it also shows that their meeple here was completely unnecessary. We get more points, so far so good. They score 1 point over here instead of scoring 4 points over here. Well, your opponent is making way more mistakes. So now I guess you probably need to start blocking this square and... Oh, no. You need points, man. You need points. Of course, you need to do something like this. Ah, okay, so you're not counting tiles too. And I think I see why. You probably... Maybe... Okay, so if you were in time trouble, that's understandable. You know, like miscounts do happen. But I think what you did is you saw that your opponent placed this tile over here, And you must have assumed, well, if my opponent does this, then this city must be live, so let me just shut it off. But you know, don't trust your opponent. And as you said, in this case, they were lower rated than you, so what do they know? You know better. Alrighty. They now make a huge mistake. It's just completely unbelievable. So instead of simply connecting over here and claiming the win, your opponent is dropping yet another farmer. Like, it's just... How did we lose? How did we lose? Again, you complete the block, which is cool. They do this. Then I absolutely... Well, they're not counting either. Again, why do not they connect? I assume it's just a hallucination. Like, they could connect here and just simply win. And here, they still have one tile that goes here. But I really like that you did not block your opponent, that you rightfully got your meeple back. Because you need to gamble and you need to hope for the exact tile that you got. Okay, well, your opponent has a straight line. They take probably some sort of road. And then we win the coin flip. We get a 4-point city. And you will see the result in just a second. Yeah, the fields are going to get scored. A whopping 27 points to you. That's like such a huge achievement, but it is not going to be enough. Your opponent wins by exactly 1 point with this farmer, which was hallucinating all the time. Even though it couldn't get into the field, these 3 points won green the game. And here, well, let's say, had we just added 1 more point to our road with the curve, we would have tied instead of blocking over here. So that's already kind of one purely tactical thing. And probably there was another moment also, like we could have simply tied by adding the curve. But I think this whole field fight, this idea, even though brilliantly executed, and of course it required some cooperation for your opponent, it needed to be postponed for later just so that you don't have to, you know, forego on value by drawing all these city caps without having a meeple. But I think it's really was all about the opening. So remember, this monastery move, this road move. If anything, if we could boil down the whole game to one thing, all the situation, all this blocked monastery, the kind of awkwardness, the fact that there was a big field, the meeple minority, it really all stems from not meepling this piece of road over here. So opening mistakes, I think, have more far-reaching consequences than people imagine. So we've pinpointed the thing to like meepling stuff that your opponent can meeple, especially in the very opening. Another thing was a bit of impatience, kind of using these city tiles inefficiently. These should have been road tiles for sure. And as a result, we built a nice city for our opponents, which ended up actually outscoring this monastery by 1 point and ended up at the meeple advantage because our opponent was controlling this square. And the third thing was, I think we missed some flexibility on our win conditions. Had we simply defended this square, our opponents would have had to be on their heels all the time, chasing around. And we would even have some fieldless win condition in this game. But these imbalanced positions, monasteries versus field, are actually not easy to play for either side. And this is, by the way, the type of game that can make many intermediate level players think that it's better not to meeple monasteries because you sort of end up trapped like this. And then you end up with a meeple minority, and then they say, okay, I'm not going to meeple monasteries, I'm going to use them as field tiles. And then they start losing even more games. So yeah, it kind of requires really just some patience in order, not to clog yourself up over here. Well, already, I hope that was somewhat instructive for you, just to show you this monastery versus field imbalance and how we can navigate. And again, a credit to you for like this last-ditch attempt on taking over the field and actually managing to do that despite being a long-term meeple minority. Unfortunately, was not enough. All because one thing, because a little bit of impatience. But we're going on to our next game. And the next game was sent to us by Team Brazil. I think it's an arena game, so it's was played a few weeks before. Our protagonist is Mejuto from Team Brazil, and our opponent is... What's with the numbers in the screen names? ATRT, AT. RT. No, I'm just gonna call him RT. Or Arthur. I don't know why. Wait. I've already gone through an entire mug of liquids. I'm gonna need to talk a lot today, so hence the need for hydration. We're gonna start the game in a second. Alrighty, let me just make the full screen. Oh, no. This thing will be handy. By the way, notice how most of the time in the previous game, we didn't refer to the tile counter that much. It was mostly about general principles. Still something handy to have. Right, we're the starting player, so that's great. We should be winning. Okay, your opponent takes 4 points. We're not winning anymore. We continue our road. Oh, this is where you went for the creative play. I think taking the road is fine. I think, yeah, you can do that. I don't hate this move, because the reason why this move is actually... No, I actually rather like it. The reason with this move, it's quite neat, because it sort of takes away all the road tiles on the board, and now your opponent doesn't have a lot to do. On the other hand, you're kind of... Like, these roads are not that valuable, and your opponent, simply with the move that he makes, already creates some problems for you. I'm also loving this 1-point meeple, by the way. You'll see why in a second. We see that there's a discarded tile. And that's all right. So now, after this move, your opponent has created a threat to give you a 50-50 for the roads, which you don't want to really be doing. You don't want to allow him that. Here, actually, we might have to, though. Maybe I would, because it's such a nice tile in order to waste on a move that you played. But we already here from the very opening see how this move at the start leads to some sort of awkwardness. So the reason why maybe it's not such a horrible idea if our opponent does get the roadblock here. First of all, we still would have the 50-50. And second, by blocking this square over here, our opponent makes his road more vulnerable, and you can tie it together and make sure that you lose only one meeple but not two meeples. I mean, still, of course, it's not ideal to allow this, so you go for this move. But now, after this, that's it. Any benefit that you may have gained by placing this meeple, because essentially what this meeple did, it like gave you 1 extra point. Because it prevented your opponent from meepling a 2-point road. It forced them to meeple a 1-point road. So, in a sense, that's kind of getting an extra point, right? But you now just lost 2 points. I think actually players very often forget about the cost of this. Because this tile goes over here naturally, and these are 2 city points. But we continue. They start... Okay, they should be meepling this always, if they're going to do something like this. So now you have a monastery, which is fantastic. and you get to control their road, you get to control the empty road. It's fantastic. Still, like, we should be winning this. Now here you have several good moves. Probably the most natural one is just going here and meepling a city. I really actually don't see anything else. This is not ideal because you're opening up your city to attack. You just want to continue with an extender or a city cap. But the purpose of this is really just cleaning up. So you did this. You built a city and then you just did nothing with it. Why? Because what you are doing is, well, your opponent is now going to meeple it. Let's say, I don't know, they get something like this, right? They get a triple city tile. And now they're 3 triangles away from finishing their city. So, and yeah, generally you don't want to be wasting tiles, okay? If you're afraid to meeple the city, then at least like add it to yourself, so that you can get 2 points. But really just meeple the city here. I think it was rather necessary. Either start a new city. Okay, now, I mean, now of course, obviously, you're going to go here and meeple the city. Second best move going here. It's kind of vulnerable, so I don't like it. I think this is better. But you continue ignoring the city. Okay, okay. Your opponent's taking points, trying to block you. Well, surely now you will meeple the city. Nope. Nope. But not only do you sorry, we already saw the opponent's tile. That would have been more instructive. But not only do you not meeple the city, like for, I don't know how many moves in a row. Okay, with this one it was super vulnerable, but with the shield, I mean, you have to pick up empty stuff on board. This move that you played here is actually counterproductive because you're making your city more vulnerable. There was an attacking square, and now there's still one attacking square, but it's less restricted. And your opponent, just to teach you the lesson, happens to have the exact tile in hand. And this is just a huge blow for us. Because here's what happened. Having this potentially 8-point city opened like this and vulnerable for attack, it's still not a huge problem. Because your opponent, in order to equalize, would require 2 tiles. Let's say a city cap over here and the triangle over here, which is kind of the same amount of tiles that you spent, right? But now, what you're doing with this, you now have 3 tiles invested. And your opponent with 2 tiles, but in reality with just 1 tile, because like this meeple is not going anywhere. Well, maybe your opponent would have to complete the connection just to prevent you from drawing one of the 2 splitter tiles. So let's say with 2 tiles, manages to equalize your investment of 3 tiles, and more important, your opponent gets to do this with less valuable tiles. Look at that, city cap and 2 Doritos, and your opponent does this with the triple city. Giving your opponent a productive move with a triple city is just a huge concession. So it all started, I think, by not taking the city earlier. But let's say even if we don't take the city, this move better goes like somewhere here or somewhere here, kind of indirectly continuing your road and attack your opponent's city. There are a lot of things that you can do. But we will continue. Yeah, of course you continue your road, as you should. Your opponent does something strange, but okay. Okay, here, of course, we're going to clean off the city cap at the top. They don't really have much what they can do. They can probably start a new road up top. Actually, that's probably the best move for them. They start a blocking attack, which actually is not that strong. I mean, it's alright, but what it really does... They don't have a lot of blocking tiles. Essentially what they're hoping to draw one of these triangles with a road before you draw a straight line, and also 2 out of 4 triangles with a road are shielded, so really they want to draw one of the 2 shieldless triangles with the road. This move actually doesn't do much, and the reason why it doesn't do much, it doesn't make this square here any more vulnerable, because the attacking platform from here and from here, it's pretty much the same. Well, maybe they're giving themselves like 2 more tiles to work with, but I think it's not the strongest move from your opponent. You, of course, immediately defend, and you're just chilling. Like, your position is still not that bad. Okay, if they do this, it's a good move from them. But you're still doing just fine, right? There's still 3 tiles that fit here in case they do block. So I think the best move for you, well, you can do one of 2 things. You can kind of continue this road. I'd rather like it. It adds 2 more points, create an attack and platform over here. Or you can start a loop, which I probably don't like that much for a couple of reasons. One is you need curves in a lot of places, and your opponent will take the city cap and create 2 pressure points over here. So maybe this loop over here is not that great. Probably the best move is something either like this or like this. I prefer this because it's not only takes a 4-point road, but it obviously brings your monastery closer to completion, and it actually protects your meeple, because now your opponent, if your opponent wants to do something nasty over here, he'll be forced to add 1 point to your road. So then if your meeple does get blocked, you get, well, you get to survive, right? Let's see what you do. Okay, you do the other move. That's understandable. That's fine. I think the other one was better, but it's still okay. It's still okay. But unfortunately, it gives your opponent a strong move. Let's see if they find it. So one move, well, they could just simply take 3 points and now start harassing this square. But a stronger move is for them to go here, start a 5-point road, and start a blocking attack on this city. See if they find it. They don't. They don't find it. Fortunately for you, I mean, your opponent is like, your opponent is actually letting you get away with a lot of stuff. If like at this point with the run out of tiles, they just should be completely strangling you, but you're still alive. So now, of course, you go here, pointed that way. That's what happened. I sort of understand this. I think what you didn't want to happen is for your opponent to draw a straight road and for them to block you over here. Yeah, I guess I can see that. But it's unfortunate that we got ourselves into this position in the first place. Because you see, that's what this move did, right? It left a 3-point road. You allowed them to create a block and platform of tempo. We didn't take a 4-point road, which would have been more helpful for us and which would actually have protected this city. Okay, so this here, I don't hate this defense. It's kind of the, unfortunately, you know, in Carcassonne, there are moves which look like mistakes but aren't mistakes. And this is one of them. But like getting into that situation is the part that's not ideal. I mean, here I might even still just kind of gamble and play up top just to clean off the city cap and get some points. We're 17-0 on the scoreboard. We need to make something happening. But fortunately, your opponent makes another mistake. I mean, I can't. Your opponent is just making huge gifts. The move for your opponent is to always go here and meeple this road. Because they want to make sure 2 things. One is that you're not able to meeple this road with tempo when you complete the monastery, because now you've protected it. And 2, they want to start blocking your city. Of course, you would have immediately drawn the tile to finish your city, but they don't know that. Okay, we get our city back, so we should be winning. They get quick 3 points, and now we get quick 4 points. So far, everything natural. I don't know, it's this is such a big mistake for a 600 rated player. Why leave a 4-point road? Like, why can't you start a new city elsewhere? So you're getting these gifts, you're getting these 4 points. Okay, their tile draws are pretty nice. So now here, of course, we should be... But we're all at -4. We're not doing that poorly, right? And there's this monastery. So now we can't really meeple the city anymore. Probably we can start a new city here. Let's see what you do. Okay. I'm not a fan of leaving empty stuff like this. Your opponent can easily pick it up. Like, you have 3 meeples. Just meeple the thing. Just meeple the thing. It's really as simple as that. Your opponent just dumps a tile. Ah, and now you have strong moves. And I remember what you did. And this just shows you like the difference between aggressive Carcassonne and passive Carcassonne. Do we have suggestion in the chat? Suggest us strong moves. I can see 1, 2, 3 moves, and one of them is the strongest. Okay, 4 strong moves. Just come on, name one of them. I'll wait for like half a minute. I hope I'm streaming this without delay. I'm pretty sure I'm streaming this without delay. So, as red as Mejuto here as our protagonist, where do we place this monastery? Okay, I want to hear some more suggestions. Even though my smile might have revealed it. Protect the road on the top. What do you mean by protect the road? Because we don't have a road. I mean, we do have a road. We have 2 roads. But they are not on the top. They're like in the middle bottom. Ah, so close the road to the top. You mean this one? Okay, yeah, you probably mean this one. Yeah, I think this is by far the best move. So here, we meeple the monastery, and we pre-build a 5-point road for us to take. It's huge. Not only that, we're also kind of controlling a little road over here, and yeah, it's a very nice spot for us. There's some scenarios how we can draw one of these and like start building the city. Lots of good stuff can happen for us. That's one move that you could have played. Another move is here. Not bad. Next to your road, you are controlling a little piece of road here as well. You know, and you are also building next to your own road over here. So when you add a tile over here, inevitably you get to score both the road and the monastery. Option 3. Okay, you get to place a monastery over here, which gives you 6 points. You're building next to your own road. You are kind of pre-completing this road in case you do get the one remaining T-shaped crossroads. By the way, yeah, I know it was like sort of unfortunate that you haven't drawn it so far and your opponent draws the crossroads, but that has to happen every 4 games or so. All right, so great options. And finally, this is not bad as well. Yeah, a bit vulnerable, but you are pre-building a 3-point road and you're controlling an empty stuff. So lots and lots of good stuff that you can do. Of course, this move, I think, is by far the best. There are several reasons for this. But one, if you win the coin flip, you cash in big. You get 5 points and a meeple back. But if your opponent wins the coin flip, they cash in a little bit less. They get... Okay, so first of all, if you place it here, then it's a 6-point move for you. If your opponent, then it's a 4-point move for them, and they're forced to give you a meeple back. But there's something more important about placing this monastery over here. Inevitably, you are going to complete this monastery, right? And then you kind of want to be meepling this road. And you want to create the conditions to meeple this road. Because if you don't create the conditions, one of the 2 things will happen. You will be at a predicament, and it will be a lose-lose situation. Imagine, let's say, this monastery is not here, which it won't be. Let's say you draw this immediately. Then, if you meeple this, your opponent gets a big tile and blocks you with 4 points. If you don't meeple this, your opponent gets a road tile, gets a 5-point road, and builds it over here. So that's why it's important to actually fully pre-build the roads that you have. But what you do instead is take a 3-point road. It's a kind of, you got something out of this move, but then the question is, are you trying to win this game? Because your opponent will get a monastery with the road, and they ain't gonna waste it on a 3-point road. I can tell you that. And now the thing happens. Now you can't meeple it. Who is going to meeple it? We know who's going to meeple it. Of course they're going to meeple it. I called it, guys. You see, that all could have been prevented. And now you would have been like so much up on the scoreboard. You would be just winning basically. But now we're not winning. Now you start a field, which is actually quite alright. I probably prefer starting a city here. I just don't like leaving city caps lying around. It does come with a block, but your opponent here should actually... They should take these 4 points. Instead they chicken out. It's up to them. We're not going to criticize them. Here, lots of good things can happen. I think you can block. Actually, that's a nice sequence. Yeah, this block is actually good. But on the other hand, you're blocked with 6 points. And your opponent is blocked with 5 points. So it's barely losing mini battle for them. It's one interesting psychological issue. Players are very often afraid of blocked meeples, but they're not afraid to drop farmers, even in like small fields. But a farmer is a blocked meeple. It just like doesn't feel blocked because you're sort of blocking it yourself. It's a trapped meeple. I mean, it's not a blocked meeple. You can't take it back. That's the point. But a blocked meeple, it's usually next to a hole like this. It looks unpleasant, and it's a result of your opponent's actions. So it looks like your opponent is doing something to you, and you feel unpleasant. But there's no mathematical difference between this trap meeple and this trap meeple, with the possible exception that you may be getting one more city cap over here. But this sequence is pretty interesting. I mean, the block's kind of nice. And you know what? No, I think it's alright. It's alright. I think you can still get 2 curves over here. Try to expand this field. No, it has 1 green square. I think you could play like this, actually. It's quite decent. But your opponent now, once in a while, they actually play a strong move. That's a fantastic move. They take away. That's it. They block your field. And it's now a completely even mini battle. Well, let's see, we probably should be taking 2 points somewhere. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. They now go all out on the blocking. Of course, I think the move for them was to go like this and to completely box you in. Because you see, they actually are not really blocking you here. Well, they are taking away 1 tile away. They're taking away this thing from you, right? Because you can't now build upwards anymore. But actually, psych, you can. You can still drop it over here like this, so your opponent's move doesn't do much. And let's say if you get a monastery with the road, then you can easily unblock yourself. And what they did, they just gave you an extra point. I think this was a bit stronger and more annoying, just to hammer down the point. By the way, Japanese players. Okay, I'm gonna tell us our team secrets, okay? I and my team members, we do study how other people play, and we try to like exploit everybody's weak spots and strong spots. One of the strengths of Japanese players of all levels, even like 500 rated players, they're very good at blocking fields. And if you drop a farmer too early into a 6-point field, they're not going to immediately spend a meeple on joining you. They will assess whether that field is worth fighting, or if it's not worth fighting for, they'll draw a straight line, and they'll draw this, and they build around your field, and you can't expand your field, and you're trapped with 6 points. So when you're playing against Team Japan, be careful about dropping early farmers. But I digress. Because we'll see the core points of this game. We're kind of really past it. It's really mostly about the opening. Whoops, there's an ant on my hand for some reason. Starting a new city, all great. They are getting good tiles now. Hopefully, yeah, you do this. All good, kind of natural moves. It's an overkill if you ask me. But okay, they block your meeple. Actually, you should be fine with this. Now, of course, we break the city. Yeah, that's good. And now they are not going to waste their monastery in the 3-point road. They are going for one of the monastery spots. They're also not going to waste it on this 3-point road. So it's not about the field. They're going to place it and meeple it. Here, I kind of like blocking this monastery immediately, but you go here, which I think is also fine. I mean, points are points are points. They should be connecting to you, but they don't. Now here again, I'd probably go there, but I think you go for points, which is also understandable. I guess like by this in the time of the game, you realize that you sort of need more points to catch up. Even though the game is sort of kind of close. And now something interesting happens. I would have taken 3 points over here, or 3 points over here, but they just block themselves, which is interesting. So first of all, it shows you one thing. Well, I guess technically this move gives them 4 points immediately, so it is the highest scoring move. But it also shows you that they realize that they were placing this monastery for the sake of the monastery, for the sake of the points, not for the sake of getting their meeple back. And I think one of the purpose behind their moves was to place some sort of thing over here, just to make sure that you don't get a divider. Now, of course, here we're going to grab a 7-point monastery. Oh. Yeah. So again, I'm not quite sure what you're... Yeah, so this is like, why? You get fantastic tiles. It's a monastery which is 2 squares away from completion. And is actually completely live. You can get like anything from here. You can get a triangle, you can get a curve, you can get a 5-point road upon finishing, but you choose to sort of start blocking their city, but it's barely helping you, because you are taking away 2 tiles, that's true. Well, then they just gonna use the field tiles to finish this city, and the city tiles and the city plus road tiles to finish this city. So it does feel like waste of a monastery. Yeah, okay, they do this. Now, again, here a variety of things we can do. Probably going to proceed with the block. That's understandable. But you see, now all you just keep doing is chasing around. Whereas we could have simply gathered compensation. Just imagine what could have happened. With the previous tiles, you would have had the monastery over here. Then you would have placed this curve over here. And now with this curve, you would place it over here. You would have the 5-point road. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the 5-point road immediately. And you would have a 8-point monastery with a huge chance to complete. So it does look like the city is scary. They're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 points. But if you just opted to not chase it around, but simply build your own stuff, you would be getting 14 points yourself. Exactly. 9 plus 5, yeah. By spending really the same number of tiles. Okay, so you do this, which is good, you know. But again, it's only a 50-50 chance. They, of course, don't get to finish the stuff which is good. And in order for it to work, that's, by the way, a very nice farmer from them, you had to win a coin flip. Okay, that's good. We won the coin flip. This goes over here. By the way, actually, I think this move is not that bad. The only thing was missing is the meeple on the monastery. Look at this. It's a 7-point monastery. By the way, like, I think the reason why I didn't place a meeple here, it may have felt that it was only 3 points, but your opponent is guaranteed to give you more points. They would be, because they want this meeple back. They want this meeple back. So this means that it would have been at least a 5-point monastery, but it's really a 6-point monastery because you are planning to continue blocking the city, right? The city is a threat. But let's say if you were to place a meeple over here, then instead of placing a curve like this, you would be able to create a blocky platform by adding 1 more point to your monastery. So this is very often happens, which is why it's so lucrative to have a monastery control your opponent's features in all stages of the game. Because, you know, you get to get extra monastery points for things that either you or, in some case, your opponent would already be doing. In this case, creating a blocking threat. Okay, well, they get the city thing. Well, now, of course, we're going to meeple the monastery. Not enough tiles to complete, but still it will be enough points-wise. They will score more stuff. Here, probably this is where the calculation comes in. And we're not going to go through it. Actually, no. Wait. We are here for the nitty-gritty, right? So what's the game situation here? We're at -3. We have this mini battle at +1, so we're at -2. This mini battle, we are -2, so we're at -4. Here we are at -5, so we are at -9. Here we have a 5-point road, so we'd have a -4. 7-point monastery, +3. 6-point field for our opponent, -3 for us. And 6-point city, -9 for us. So it's actually super, super hard. How do we win? I can see several ideas. We could drop a farmer here, yeah, which I like. But there's some other paths. After we drop a farmer, we'll be, what, -3 and a meeple. But there's another alternative. Maybe we can kind of drop a... Yeah, maybe we can gamble a little bit more. For example, by dropping the farmer here. And then hoping to get the 1 remaining city cap for this 8 points. I like it, actually. I really like it. Because, you know, we need to get really lucky. But, okay, this is understandable. This is a good move, okay? Okay, what do they do? 6-point, yeah. Now, I don't think we have any way how we can win. Okay, we know that this tile was discarded, so it's the crossroads that you needed and you didn't get the entire game, but we're not going to complain about that ever. And it's the city cap, and it's the curve. Okay, I'm going to ask you, who in the chat can suggest some winning paths? After this move, we're at -9. Can we get 9 points in any way, shape, or form? The answer is we can get 9 points. The unfortunate part is that our opponent will be getting more. Because I guess we can... Yeah, we can't get more than 9. Well, what if we go here, we just take 1 point. Let's say our opponent gets some sort of road tile, they get 1 more point. And then with the city cap, we get 9 points on our last move. Then our opponent just needs to score anything with anything, right? So I think at this point it's just unwinnable. Let's just see what you did. Well, yeah, you did this. I mean, they also got... they got the one that flipped for the city cap. And here it just doesn't matter what you do. Well, it's understandably the chat is silent, Raf, just because it was an unwinnable position. Yes, it's a bit of an icing on the cake that your opponent got all the 3 crossroads, but they were blocked from the other side anyway. And yes, it's unfortunate that your opponent got 2 city splitters, which we could have used. At the same time, your opponent didn't get money triangles for the connection, so we don't get to complain about this. So overall, I think a totally winnable game. I forgot. We'll see what the point difference is in a second. It should be around 10. But I think the main issue is that you are just too passive or too shy. There were many movements. Well, it kind of started with this. So now we'll learn from maybe this is a bit of a too risky opening. It cost you 2 points at the start because you were forced to defend. Still, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think it's kind of okay to play like this. But we see how it can sometimes lead into trouble. Now, in the opening, you left a lot of empty stuff lying around. For example, this should have been absolutely your city at some point. And then here, with these tiles, you just were building and making your city more vulnerable. Your opponent was able to connect, so we lost a few valuable tiles like this. Then there is also other stuff that you left lying around, like this thing, the shield, which ended up being unused in a situation where you probably had to. These kind of small things add up. And the thing is, your opponents actually probably made more mistakes than you this game. Like, they just gave you... I mean, they just gave you so much stuff. They gave you this 4-point road. They let you get away with stuff. They let you get away with this meeple. But I think the most kind of the part of the game that's the most striking was this monastery. Look at, you got the same tile, but look at how you used it. Your opponent just went for points and even blocked himself, even though this may have not been the best move. It's actually just showed what kind of aggression they are prepared for in order to chip away at their points lead. And as a result of kind of here being timid with the monastery, we ended up not cashing big on this road. So my main thing is just be more aggressive in the opening. Don't be afraid to get your meeple trapped, because look at this. If you're afraid to get your meeples trapped, you get them trapped anyway. It's a paradox, but like Carcassonne is almost like life. You know how sometimes if you're really afraid that something bad is going to happen to you in life, this exact bad thing always happens to you. It's just always true. In Carcassonne also, players who are afraid to get blocked more often. And also, I think you've probably seen me play a lot and like seen me comment a lot, and you've seen me placing meeples on things. I sometimes get my meeples blocked, but it doesn't happen that often. I'm pretty sure that I get my meeples blocked less often than players who sort of play more conservatively. I mean, there's an argument for conservative play for benefiting from something, but it does feel like we drew some really good tiles and we failed to take advantage of them, whereas your opponent did take advantage of their good tiles. So my main advice is just don't be afraid, and use the opening for scoring. And then as for blocking and defending, you can do more of that in the middle game. Yes, exactly, Steven. That's what happens. So here's what we're going to do next. My hot beverage is cold and I've been talking a lot and I still have another evening stream to do. So I'm going to leave you for like 2 minutes to get me a refill. And then we will proceed with, I think, the most complex game against a very well-known opponent. We should be back. And ready for our final game. I got my hot beverages. Comments if you happen to know my hot beverage of choice. I wholeheartedly recommend it to everyone. Whoops, 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 whoops. Spoilers, spoilers. Well, I guess it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't matter. We're all here to. We just. You're gonna have like the content to watch in the evening where we get to follow the match in real time, and we don't know the outcome, right? Here it's mostly about learning, and probably if you know that, you know, where we are analyzing a game, in all likelihood it is a loss, which by the way should not always be true. I mean, you should analyze your wins as well. But yeah, here we are playing as the Belgian player with screen name Fabian M, who is almost a member of Team Belgium. So, oh hey, Fabian, I see you in the chat. Or I know it's kind of supposed to be pronounced Fabien, I guess, but I'm not sure how to do that while still speaking English and not French. Well, you tell me. So, I see that your rating has gone up a lot since you sent this game to me, because you sent this game to me in March and we're just having the stream only now. So probably some of these mistakes you will know already, but we'll go through all of them anyway. You are the starting player, you have the 6 points advantage. Oh, and yeah, of course, our opponent is none other than Dan Chard with the screen of Dan in 30, and it's a practice game, actually. It's a game in training mode, so we're not going to get into time trouble, which is great. It's all the more reason to learn. So, this is our third move, and here is the first situation where I disagree. We see that here's a field going on. So probably we have a choice between starting a new city and dropping a farmer. But if we're starting a new city, there kind of aren't really good spots. Well, here is not bad, I guess. But you are bringing more city caps into the farm where your opponent is likely to be first. Like with any road tile, they are first. So, well, this is bad. We don't want to ever do this. We don't want to leave an empty city cap and just tie a city where we have no advantage. I mean, where your opponent has no advantage. We could go here, but that also leaves another city cap. And finally, we could go here, but it has the same issue. It leaves a field. So probably, just because there are no better things to do, I think the move is to go here and drop a farmer. And hey, Alexey, why are you allowing to leave us empty city caps? Didn't you just say that it was bad? But it's the difference between leaving one city cap and two city caps. And actually, it's really 3 city caps. Like, the chances that your opponent is going to get this city cap, and this city cap before you get any city tile are really, really low. And also, you get to be the first on the field. So you do this, and you start a city. But a farmer here was just stronger, because you're going to have to fight for the field anyway, and you know this, and you do. Of course, Dan immediately takes advantage of it, and that's it. Yeah, so he's going to be the first on the field, and we'll be trailing a little bit. Here, of course, he immediately, see what he does? He immediately connects to the city. He prevents you from finishing the city and dropping a farmer. That's kind of one of the more severe threats of Carcassonne. You now fight for the field, but you're forced to spend extra moves. Interesting. Oh yeah, that also shows you something. When you're playing a higher rated player, they're not God. They are going to be making mistakes as well. The most important part is recognizing these mistakes and taking advantage of them. Yeah, there's no way how Dan should have continued your road. There were other spots, just anywhere at the bottom, like this, for example. But if you don't take advantage of your opponent's mistakes, they will take advantage of your mistakes. I like your farmer, actually. Dan immediately, I really like the road here as well, because he's saying, okay, you want the farm, come take it, I will take the 6-point road, and then I'll fight for the field later. But it's cool. You probably can finish your loop now, and I like it, not because of the loop, but because of the attack that it threatens. Then again, another mistake from your opponent here. Curve, I don't know, there's several things that you can do. Probably I would just connect you into my field and not worry about this. Starting a block on the field is fine. But they now defend their city, which actually is not much of a defense if you think about this. Because... oh, I should turn on the tile counter. They're taking away 3 tiles from themselves, and they are reducing the number of moves that it takes you to completely block this. So before, of course, yeah, you could have drawn a straight line, but they would have still had 3 tiles remaining. But now, if you have a straight line, they go here, and now they're threatening, and now if you have a straight line, you go here, and now they're forced to react to this threat. So moves like these only work in later stages of the game when you know that there's, let's say, only 1 of these tiles or 0 of these tiles and lots of city caps like this. So you don't allow your opponent at partial blocks. At the start of the game, this move is actually hurting blue, not helping blue. So here you could do something like this. You could do... this is also fine. Actually, I rather like it, kind of just getting out of harm's way. Your position is still alright. I mean, you have the field control. Your opponent gets bailed out by the deck and... but by the way, this curve is not great for them, because they've created an additional blocking platform for themselves. Let's say if you were to get a tile like this, then now you would be able to connect or start blocking the city. So it's still, this curve hurt blue. Now, we don't have that much... oh, now you're about to make a huge mistake. So I think moves to consider are probably starting a new city somewhere, but I think the best move is just to attack the city over here. It's a juicy city. You can win it with 2 tiles pretty easily. I think that's kind of nice. Leaving this empty city cap is okay, because there's some scenarios how you get it first and then this square is vulnerable. There's, of course, a problem that your opponent can draw one of the extender and place it like this, but it's not such a bad idea in this position. It's not such a bad outcome in this position, because your opponent needs an extender here anyway to kind of secure this city away from blocking. So I think the move is to go here. You choose to go here, which my main problem with that is that you create an easy opportunity for your opponent to snatch the city away. Yeah, I mean, of course it's possible to defend. Let's say if your opponent gets 1 city cap, you get the other city cap. But why be forced into a reaction? And I understand the farmer here, for example, makes sense, because you assume that the field is going to be valuable, which it is. Now blue is actually about to finish his city with a city cap, drop a second farmer, so the field is going to be equal. And in this position, it's absolutely not too early to drop a 3rd farmer. Not only dropping a farmer here is actually quite nice, because there are 4 tiles to connect over here, and you're also restricting this square, which sort of belongs to your opponent's road. And you would be connecting efficiently into the farm by scoring 4 points. So it's a nice move, yeah? But you don't meeple the farm. You meeple the city, and that's a big mistake over here. If you're going to make a move like this, obviously you meeple the farm. Is now you've placed yourself into a losing mini battle against this road. And you've created another field connection that your opponents can use, because obviously they're going to go here, and then they're going to go here and drop a farmer and connect through this city cap. So actually this game, like the others, we're mostly going to delve into the opening, and then we're going to talk about the other stuff only a little bit, because this game, I think you had the winning tiles. It just needed to be, you just needed to like strangle your opponents in the opening, and that's it. They, of course, do this. Now, several good moves over here. Not the worst idea, actually, is just to go here and drop a farmer. Yeah, create this coin flip, but then it doesn't matter, because, like, whoever puts the tile here is going to bring in the meeple into the field, your meeple into the field. So it would be kind of a very nice opportunity to get a 3-2 majority early on. without having to work for it. As for creating a coin flip, it actually doesn't add this much variance because the 7-point monastery spot was already there. Now it's an 8-point spot, so it's not a big difference. It's still a big advantage to whoever draws this monastery first. An alternative, you can go here and kind of start attacking something, and your move here is also fine. But I think there was something stronger. Dan, of course, gets the monastery. He ain't gonna waste it. Now, of course, you're going to attack the city, which, by the way, Dan could have done. Actually, okay, I think this move was good, but I think even blue could have attacked the city instead, just so that you don't do it. Dan doesn't draw a defense. He goes here. And you connect to the city. Great job. Great job. So you should be winning this. Actually, now that I think about this, it's going to be a big field fight. Everything will connect. Drop a farmer. Like I don't see a reason for delay. Because your opponent will be dropping a farmer here, trying to connect through the city cap, and then you'll connect here through the 31. If, let's say, your opponent draws something like this, let's say a triangle with a road to block you off, that's fine. You just get one road, and then you control this meeple. And then there are two scenarios. One, your opponent gets a city cap, and then you connect through the farm that way. And two, your opponent doesn't get a city cap, and then you block him, and then you have a small 3 points versus 1 point winning mini battle. So yeah, just do things with tempo. There were several opportunities to drop good farmers. Dan drops a divider. I probably prefer farmer here, but it's fine. You're probably going to get your meeple back. As you should. The road is understandable. Now, Dan is going to drop a farmer, predictably, and now you see we're in a predicament. Because here, of course, if we had a farmer here, we could have dropped a second farmer and had a meeple majority. Or, if anything, what I prefer, actually, no. The farmer can wait, guys. Because this spot will still be available, right? Blue can go over here, but then this spot will be available. But if blue goes over here, then the 35 square will be available. So actually you still have time, and I think here the best move, instead of dropping the farmer, even though the farmer is fine, is to eliminate what is probably the most severe threat in Carcassonne. So tell me in the chat what's the most severe threat in Carcassonne and what yellow should be doing there. How yellow could be addressing this threat. I'll wait for like half a minute or so. And have a sip of something hot. It's hot water. Interesting. Yes, exactly. Raf is saying finishing a city cap and blocking another farmer is a huge threat. So you can either go like this or like this. It's sort of a subtle difference. Probably this one is, I don't know, maybe this one's slightly better, actually. Yeah, this one's definitely better in this case. But just because it's a big threat. Now you get a farmer, and now now Dan draws the city cap, and he gets the thing. And now you see here's the problem, right? We have the meeples to fight, but we don't have the space to fight. Now we have run out of good field connections. Now there's only the risky ones. Well, okay, there's always going to be like this sort of Hail Mary through an outside of a curve, Hail Mary through the outside of a curve, here. All these are blockable. Basically, unless you're in the end game, until... Yeah, you just don't want to be placing on the outside of a curve, ever, unless all crossroads have been used. Now probably the best move for you is maybe try block this meeple, actually. or start a new city. But you have the same idea, but I think you block in from the other side where it's okay. Okay. I forgot about this. We need to talk about this. The move in itself, it kind of fine, but then the question is, what's this meeple for? The answer is, of course, trying to build a city, but we don't need the meeple in order to do that. As you remember from the previous games that we analyzed, what's the reason for meepling a feature? Well, is so that your opponent doesn't meeple it until it's built. But the question is, will your opponent meeple it? And the answer is probably not, because your opponent has only one meeple and your opponent has all kinds of other stuff to care about. Your opponent needs, to get a meeple back first and then meeple this stuff. So I would just place this over here, then wait. Then, I don't know, your opponent does something. What they could do, they could probably go over here. That actually would be a very good move for them. And then you meeple this safely. Your opponent does this. Fortunately for you, you get that kind of stuff. Yeah, now that's a very nice strong move here by Dan, because he's obviously he can't meeple the stuff because he has one meeple, but he is blocking the square for the creation of the platform for blocking his monastery. So it's like really far-fetched, but it actually works, because now you are no longer able to use the 3 crossroads to take 3 points and to start blocking this square over here. So you see, he finds value in this kind of stuff. Now you're forced to take points. That's understandable. And this field is looking so juicy, but somehow yet blue with the meeple minority manages the control here. And you see where the game is going from there, but it's really about the fact you probably saw these several opportunities. We could have just clinched that field early on. There's also one other interesting situation that I've noticed in Carcassonne. Typically, if one side is getting city tiles, the other side is getting road tiles, the side with the road tiles should have control of the farm, because the first side with the cities is busy building said cities and is typically at a temporary meeple minority when doing so. So if you're drawing roads, it's kind of your responsibility to clinch the field while your opponent is building cities, or whatever. If your opponent is building cities, you want to clinch the farm that's around them. Dan gets meeple back. You continue your city. It's not a bad move, actually, but I kind of don't like the fact that you have 2 cities open. And the question is, hey, Alexey, didn't you talk about the principle of 2 cities? Well, the principle of 2 cities applies in the opening and not when you need meeples to fight for a huge field. So I think a better move was just simply going here and preserving the threats of completing the city with 2 triangles. And let's say if your opponent gets something like this, maybe some sort of attack, then you immediately grab a triangle and you can defend. I mean, it's an okay move, but I think just from a strategic standpoint, now you actually do need meeples. Your opponent gets the connection, you get the thing. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, Dan gets the block here. Unfortunately, we can't afford meepling a monastery. We need to dump it somewhere safe, maybe over here, to prevent road harassment. You place it over here, which is understandable, but it's also kind of taking away a field connection from yourself. It's a subtle thing. While your opponent completes the block, but it creates something interesting. So of course it's a good move here by blue. But now our strategy can shift, because as a result of this, your opponent went from having a simple majority on the field to having a super majority on the field. Before that, kind of your opponent was controlling this stuff potentially 4 versus 3. But now your opponent is controlling this 4 versus 2, and maybe, just maybe, because your opponent has 2 meeples invested, maybe we can even win without the field. All we have to do is maybe complete the city, or like get a monastery, or kind of get a little bit of luck. Because the thing is, like, this is 9 points. Okay, these cities are shared. Your opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 points. And an extra 15 field points that he controls with 2 meeples. It's actually not that bad for you. As long as we manage to somehow block that city cap, your opponent doesn't have a lot of green squares to develop this field from. Road, 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 road. Okay, there's this square, but it's double restricted, and it's much more likely that your opponent will finish it with a curve or another monastery. So if we just manage to take care of this city cap, or at least be the first and win the coin flip, then maybe we don't even need the field to win. This is very interesting how win conditions can shift. Before that, probably your best bet in the game, you were getting good tiles, you could have just clinched the field, but now maybe you can be the side that lets your opponent clinch the field. So let's see here. We're at plus 12, not to be discounted. 16, 8. Minus 15, plus 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, we're at plus 8. Oh, plus 12. Because there's the road. It's a great position for us, and I think because of that, we don't even necessarily need the field suddenly. That's interesting. So you continue your road. Dan gets quick points. Here, you get this tile. Here, you probably should be putting it either here or here. But the main point is, this is the dead city. This is the live city. You want to putting tiles like this in the live city. I'm not sure exactly if this helps you finish or not. Maybe it does, actually. Maybe it does. This move is also okay because it prevents your opponent from attacking your dead city. No, if you're going to place a move like this, then it's better to not go here, but to go here on the right. Just so that it actually prevents an invasion. This does not prevent an invasion. It actually gives your opponents extra opportunities for invasion. So this move doesn't do you that much. But it's fine. These are small things. Okay, so now we got unfortunate. Your opponent blocked the second city. Of course, he's adding us more points, which is great. Yeah, I mean, now our situation is not that great. Okay, we could probably just still keep building it. There's still an off chance we can finish it, and if not, you know, a point is a point is a point. But unfortunately, our opponent gets a tile that's fantastic for them. Not only do they score 7 points, they drop another tile with which they can score more field points. It's very wise here that I think you got your road meeple back. Although, something is to be said for a potential gamble. It wouldn't be the worst move in the world to take it here. But strategically, I like what you're doing. I think you need to win meeples and you just need to get quick points somewhere because you're still ahead even after this. Oh yeah, great point, Ref, actually, about this triangle move. Putting this tile over here makes even more sense when you know that there's a quadruple city tile in the deck. But that's kind of like a very, I think, very advanced way of thinking. We're trying to go for the core here. Dan starting a road. And here I think... I'm not sure how I feel about it. So you start a road too, and I'm not a fan of that move. It seems to me a bit too weak and too slow. Because there's still monasteries on board. And you're leaving yourself with one meeple. You want to have city caps to build stuff. And yeah, it's just like this 2-point road, it doesn't do you too much. Of course, there's still road ends remaining, but just because you don't have enough meeple to do this kind of stuff, it's better to do one of two things. Either just place this road over here and leave it at that, because your opponent in all likelihood will not want to take a 3-point road. They will want to finish their road instead. But I think a stronger move is to actually start a road over here. because you're giving yourself more tiles. You're giving yourself 3 curves as well. Because the square is restricted, this road would not be as blockable as you think. And let's say if your opponent gets a straight line and they do put it over here and they sort of block you, they restrict you. Okay, now you need a crossroads, but a crossroad is what you need here anyway. And also they're sacrificing 1 point to do that. Unfortunately for you, your opponent gets his meeple back immediately and has some more advantages. Yeah, here you're just dumping the monastery, which is fine. But again, the only reason why we're forced to dump the monastery is because this meeple here is entangled up in the road. Another reason... So here you should again assess how far behind are you. Let's actually do this again. Let's not be lazy. It's our last game of the stream. Okay, so here I think we had 8, and here we had 7, 15. We're at plus 7. Minus plus 7 minus 1 plus 1. Nope, I need to redo this, guys. I can't. Okay, 7 over here, 8 over here. That's 15. And our opponent has 18 on the field because I'm canceling out these 3 cities. So minus 3. Plus 7, that's plus 4. That here is plus 6. And that here is minus 2. So we're at minus 2 and a meeple. This is interesting. The game is actually really close. So we could just wait for a meeple back, which is not the worst idea, in which case we are at minus 1 and everything can happen. Of course, there's a big problem if we lose this flip. So we could see what happens. But another idea that we can play here is just to go here. If you believe that we are behind, then we could just go over here and create a coin flip. Maybe it's a bit too early to do that, but it's certainly something that we could think about. Because there's still 1 road monastery remaining, and we could just YOLO it. So far, still, we're absolutely live. Our win condition is fieldless. That's almost certain. Here we should always be continuing our city, and I would say this one near the 11. Ah, you go for the other one, but I'm not a fan of this move for several reasons. One, it actually does not bring your city any closer to the completion. It does make it slightly less vulnerable to a block, but actually, because the thing, if you place something over here, you will be forced to sort of restrict this square a little bit, whereas I think this was kind of stronger, and then at the same time you're making it flexible, right? You're keeping the chances for both finishing the city and just simply using it as a threat, force your opponent into building around it, chasing it around. It's the same idea as in the first game of the stream. If you have a like medium-sized city, it's not about finishing it, it's about all that threat. So for example, imagine if it took this tile over here. Maybe Dan, instead of taking 2 points somewhere here or here, would have just tried to block you, in which case it's an absolute win, because there's still 1 starting tile remaining which we can place over here. And if not, well, we just won 2 points from your opponent. What this move does, however, is it gives away a 4-point road, which Dan is happily going to take. And the reason why this coin flip is not great is because you need a crossroads in 2 places. You need to clean off these 4 points, and you need to place it over here. And finally, actually having this little piece of road sticking into our city was good for us, because there's still 2 crossroads with a city cap, which we can use over here to add a city cap and score 3 extra road points. This one, of course, is like a way more subtle thing than we had in the opening. That just goes to show you that when we're in the middle game approaching the end game, there's like really a lot of depth and a lot of improvement that we can make. But admittedly, yes, kind of blue is getting a nice flow of tiles here. But we did get a nice flow of tiles in the opening. We just okay, well, blue wins the coin flip. Very unfortunate for us. Because now I'm not even sure if we can win without the field here. So we of course going to... Oh, that's greedy. I would just take the meeple back here. I mean, it's fine. Maybe you decided that you kind of want... I can see that. I can see that. Maybe you decided that you want to gamble real hard. But I think still we can make something happen if we just take the meeple back. Okay, but I understand this move too. I'm not going to criticize it. And you're adding city points to yourself. You just want to play efficiently. You now start a new city at the bottom. Okay, maybe all is not lost, actually. We do have a lot of points with ruins. And lots of good things can happen. Dan will probably start a blocking attack. Oh no, Dan starts ring road, which actually in this case is not great, I think. Because look at the ring tiles remaining. There's only one curve remaining. You could say that there's 3 curve-like tiles remaining. But 2 of them Dan needs elsewhere anyway. But actually, with a meeple surplus, he can totally afford it. Alright, Elias is saying that you won 4 versus 1 against Guatemala. Congratulations, maybe not lining yourself up was the recipe. And 3 games were won on time. You should certainly tell Marco from your team to take note of this for curiosities of the week. Ah, this move I don't like. You know why? Because it doesn't do anything. I mean, now of course winning the game is very difficult, but you still have opportunities. Just let me show what you could do. One thing I think, let's evaluate the position again. I kind of forgot the count, but let's say we're at -7. Your opponent has 20 plus 21 on the fields and 3 here. So we're at -30. No, -28, -31, -30, and we have 9, so it's like 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're at -13, which is really not great. But we still have a way back into this game. So one is we can try to create some sort of miraculous field connection. Maybe there's a world how we can go here, and then bring in 2 meeples with a single monastery. Maybe we need to start setting up for something like that. But a simpler move is to go here and create a coin flip. Because it does seem to me that the path to victory for you lies in the road monastery. Not only because you need those extra points to come from somewhere, but also because if your opponent draws the monastery, well, it's 7 points over here, 7 points over here, they're just going to be too far ahead, and you won't be able to win that way. So I think maybe going for the 50-50 here is a good idea. So I see that you restrict their field, which is also an understandable move as well. Actually, no, I take my word back. It's actually it's a good move. Yeah, it does this function. It has a purpose. I just didn't see it. It does restrict your opponent's field. Unfortunately, they are really quick to finish their road. Oh, no, they attack your city instead. Which, of course, makes you think about this move again. Because this spot was open. Actually, I like this from Dan. It's not about connecting into the city. There's still 2 tiles, and you could draw both of them, and you would really hope that you do that, or you can somehow block this. Or maybe you can even reconnect. That's doable. We could try that. But Dan's idea, which I like, is just simply, given his lead, to prevent this city from completing. And also, well, he has 2 tiles to equalize this, and losing these 8 points, of course, would be a concession. We get a meeple back. So what do we do here? Your opponent gets fortunate again. They connect immediately, and we get a tile which is not great for us, because we can't even re-attack the city again, right? Because we got the last potential connection. Maybe we could have hoped for this, and then we get to connect here with one of our meeples, score lots of points, and then score lots of points somewhere else, maybe for a monastery. Now I guess We're close to toast, but I would set up for some sort of Hail Mary field connection. I think I see something. It's very far-fetched, but again, like, beggars can't be choosers, right? So you go here, and again, I'm only able to do that because we see all the tiles, right? It's very hard to spot, but just to show you what kind of ideas there are in a difficult game where you can grab to a couple of percentage points, right? After your opponent has shared the city, I don't think we can win without the field yet because we just lost 8 valuable points. We are -3 on the scoreboard at -6. Well, and we only have +2 here, and we're losing a huge field. So maybe the move for us is to go here, drop a farmer, then take another city tile, drop a farmer, then get a curve and get a monastery. And then connect 2 farmers into the field and equalize the field. And then that way we would be winning. It's very far-fetched, but so is every other possible win condition, right? But it's fine. You kind of just do the most natural moves in the end. But just I wanted to show you that there were still a couple of percentage points of hope that you could really try it. Here, well, here I guess there isn't anything that we can do now. There are just simply not enough moves remaining to set up a field connection like this. So you just go for points. And for more points. Well, no, actually, well, okay, your opponent wins the coin flip for the monastery. And you get more points. And we're now going to count up and see the difference. Farmer connecting the ruin to the other place. I don't think I quite understood. Oh! Oh, yeah, maybe there is something. But I think there were just like 2 moves remaining. Did you suggest like something like this, and then a farmer here, and then a farmer here, tile here, road monastery here? It does look like it's something similar that I was suggesting. It does seem like something like this. It does require a lot of tiles, but yeah, you can start thinking about stuff like this. So I think the main lessons from this game, like the ending, not much was salvageable, right? These Hail Mary opportunities are useful to see, but they will only win you a handful of extra games. What will win you a lot of games is the opening. At the start, you got tiles to really strangle your opponent, and I think we discussed how you could have clinched this field. Even with the first farmer as well, there were some opportunities. Then there were some options about fieldless win conditions, which it did seem to me that after the game switched, after this block was completed, it wasn't hopeless at all. It was an absolutely even game, and while your opponent did happen to get these city caps, and if anything, this is the point difference, these 14 points from these city caps, that's actually what won your opponent the game. But of course, had he not drawn these city caps, he would have drawn something else. So we still needed to hustle for the win there. Yeah, and then some Hail Mary opportunities to connect at the end. But this is, of course, less important. The main thing is if you see a fight for big field brewing, especially if there is any chance for the position to get close. Just drop farmers earlier. That's pretty much it. Especially if you know that you are going to drop a farmer somewhere in that area later. Well, just drop it immediately. So you see, this one you had to spend an extra move, whereas actually this farmer could be coming over here instead. And there were several moments like this. Okay, good to know we're on the same page. Whoa, 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 what? My voice. I haven't taken enough sips. I will have time to recuperate a little bit before our next stream, which I think is in 40 minutes. So you remember how you can submit the games for viewer games analysis for the May stream? You just gotta send me an email or a message in Board Game Arena with the link to the game, and then I'll have a look at it. See you all for Belgium versus Argentina in 40 minutes. Of course, meeple the like button for the algorithm. If you like the video, that would help. And subscribe in case this is the first time you're here, but I think for the most of you it is not the case. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.